lockable here, do you?
And that big one?
This one right here.
No, no.
It's locked, but we could use a little place to store some stuff. And I'm wondering if there's any way that's a storage room that we could be getting into.
That would be good.
It would, yeah. Stuff's just kind of lying around everywhere.
Yeah. Feed should be managed. Oh man. This was easier than I was hoping.
You know, mine good. Or bad, as the case may be.
Yeah. Hey. Is this the TV remote?
Yes.
Sandra Stevens FaceTime video. Sandra Stevens.
Hey, sis.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Hold on, I got that speaker. I had you on speaker. I need to turn you off. I'm at the Pride Center and it's blasting through the space. Yeah. Hey, nothing urgent. Just wanted to recap and chat with you a little bit, but I'm at the middle of, we're getting ready to start our book club at Acres Pride. So can I give you help at some point? Cool. Yeah, it's all good. I didn't have anything urgent to talk about. It was interesting. I had a good visit with Sarah, but I just wanted to kind of hash out something. I was like, was that weird? So, well, she thought I got mad at her, and I didn't. But I did get quiet a little bit every now and then because so I kind of was like, I think she and I. But I was like, this is weird. This is really weird. Yeah.
Testing. Testing.
In a bit.
I think we're in business.
Oh, no. Is it on literally now?
No, it hasn't gone live on Facebook yet.
Okay.
Oh, I need to open the stupid thing. So, Michael, in some of the publicity, I set discussion today for just from 6 to 7:30.
Okay.
So,
Are you gonna have an hour and a half? Wow, that's a lot of talking, but we'll see what we can do.
right, yeah, I'm thinking, 2 hours, the last two ones, felt like a long time. So that's why I feel like we could start cutting down and then just like, as the thing evolves, the program evolves, and we can.
Well, I think those times are great, especially once we have a more robust group of people.
Yeah.
You get more conversation and it'll take a little bit,
Right.
But for right now, it's only us three.
Yeah.
We may see, but I hope it's not. I hope we get a lot more.
Yeah, I'm thinking, we might get a little engagement on Facebook Live and, people can participate that way. Maybe. So, we'll see. Close these four.
Given that we're doing this live, what does that mean for if I'm talking? Where should I be?
Well, let's see, maybe, so the microphone is supposed to pick up. Yeah,
The video.
let's see.
You can turn it or I can trade seats with you.
I was thinking, let's see. Wonder if this is.
So flattering.
What do you think? Or maybe
It's good. It's good.
you want to go on here? Well, I gotta maybe over here because I won't be typing. I don't think I'll probably just be sharing the screen.
You want me to move down one? I was trying to give us distance, but
'Cause I'm thinking I might ask.
I don't think just put a camera at the top of that thing. You know, into the whole system.
That'd be great. Wonder- yeah. Oh, this would be cute.
Here's the picture.
Did you bring food? I ate you birthday cake.
Oh,
Oh.
that was not necessary. Oh, that's so sweet.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, you're
That's
welcome.
great. Your birthday is today?
It was
Or-
Sunday.
It was Sunday. Okay.
Yeah.
Happy late birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Have to eat it now if you don't want to. You want to eat it after?
I think that'd be good. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
make a little announcement and
We can get the video, by the way, out so I can hold up the case just for whatever purpose it serves.
okay.
You got time, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking,
Oh, it's okay. We're starting, right?
yeah, I'm gonna use the restroom and we can get going.
Sweet. That was very sweet.
What happened here? You know what? Since it's just us,
Mm-hmm.
wonder if we could just do Facebook and that might be just easier.
Sure. You're the geek guy.
Okay.
You got.
All right. Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking out loud. Okay. I think you might have to do that instead. All right, maybe.
I talked to Corey today about like trying to get into the webpage more. She still wants me to work with Megan
Okay.
to do it, but
Yeah.
I feel like we've got to have the right page to drive people to. So it's, I think on the calendar, it should be generic, but it should have a link there saying learn more, and then it will take you to what we're talking about so people can be prepared. If they can't be prepared, they're not going to come for it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Maybe we can have a little meeting
yeah,
to talk more about other stuff to improve the thing. That'd be good.
we can, I think Netflix has the next movie on it,
Okay.
The Prom, and we could maybe do another showing and then actually have a strategy meeting.
Okay.
Of course, we probably should talk about it before then, so we get people to that.
Yeah.
Do you demask to talk on this thing?
What's that?
Do you demask to talk on there?
Well, the microphone is supposed to pick up whoever's
alright.
talking.
I'm just thinking it's a visual cue on there. I don't know if they can tell who's talking if you can't
Oh, okay.
see them, but
Yeah, that's a good point. We can try to make it
I'll do it. I'll do it.
do our, yeah. Okay.
John Hancock there. That's fine.
I have a feeling that this is my work computer.
Uh-huh.
So I have a feeling there's a lot of restrictions for that. I think because now it, yeah,
Give me a hard time.
yeah. I don't think it's gonna let me.
Well, just do, you want to open the Zoom and leave it empty and just have our in-house and show it to Zoom, or?
Yeah, I think that's what we'll have to do. I'll click a little more. I'll click around a little more and see, but I don't think it's gonna let me. Camera issue. Logs.
So what you been up to over the last week? Anything other than baking a cake?
Yep. I baked 2 cakes
Nice.
because my two of my neighbors' birthday are 2 days apart,
Uh-huh.
and it was last week, so I baked a cake for them.
Oh, sweet.
We had a party, had tons of food at the pool.
That's a cute little community. Right?
Yeah.
So, I had never been back there because I just moved down here, so I didn't even know that existed. What's that? Baltimore.
Oh, yes, you did. We talked about hairspray.
Oh, that's right, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's just us for now. I think once we get a computer, like a Naples Pride camera, we might be able to put whatever settings we have on there.
Perfect.
So, okay, so let me just pull up the agenda. We're all pretty familiar with it at this point, so. All right. Let's just go through it. Let me. Come on, agenda. We're kind of sharing, I can do. Here we go. Alrighty. So, thanks all for coming today. like I said, we're all pretty familiar, I would say, with the agenda as it stands, but let's just go through it. And we can also share this with future viewers on Zoom if I can figure this out. Okay, let's see. So share screen. Very culture, here we go. So thanks for wearing your mask, everybody. We have some masks available for anyone in the future. I feel like we will be wearing masks for a while. I would say for maybe forever. I don't think disease is really going anywhere, and this is a good way for us to help contain it. I would say we've all learned that in the last year. I hope. So thank you for that. I think we have some leftover pizza, but we could try to get some ordered in. What do you guys feel like?
I'm good. I'm looking for the cake.
You okay? Okay.
I was wondering if we can get the thin crust pizza.
Okay. I'll send a text to Corey, see if she would she'll agree. I think she will, but okay. So I'll send in pizza order in a bit. Pizza preference?
I'm good with anything.
Thin crust, okay.
Thin crust is great. I love thin crust.
Okay.
I'm good on toppings. Like could be cheese or
What do you guys?
whatever you want.
How about you, Jeffrey, for toppings?
Doesn't matter. Pepperoni.
Okay. Was the birthday guy?
I got the cake, man. I don't need
Okay.
pepperoni is awesome. I like a little meat on it, so that's good.
Pepperoni. Okay. So I'll ask Corey for some in a bit. Okay, so our meeting is on the fourth Wednesday of every month for anyone that's watching this at the moment. We will do these through October. We have these planned through October, and we hope to have some type of gathering in November or December to celebrate all of our meetings at that point. So our goal is to make friends in Southwest Florida and the LGBTQ community through our discussion surrounding LGBTQ specific popular culture pieces like books, cultural activities, films, articles, current news events, whatever it is we decide to discuss. Make sure you guys sign in, please. I'll try to sign in as well. And put in your email address. We probably already have all of our email addresses. And anyone watching this, if you can send us, you go to our website or send us an email at info@naplespride.org with your thoughts, but mainly your email address and phone number, so we can sign you up for our newsletter, and so you can get more news from us directly. There are a couple ways that you can support our program because like all of our services, this is free. So consider supporting us in any of the following ways. You can donate by visiting our website at naplespride.org/support-us. You can make a one-time donation. You can make multiple donations throughout the year. I think you can even set it up. You can buy Naples Pride gear. You can become an individual member. And there are some cool perks to that. So check out our website for more information. If you own a business or know somebody who does, you can also purchase a Business Alliance membership. And that's also on our website, naplespride.org. You can also like and follow our social media and share our posts and our information to help us out. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok now. So help us out and support our spread our social media around. Okay, so for us here, if you can just try to remember when you're speaking, try not to pull down your mask and touch it. I say that as I'm touching and pulling on my mask. So I'll try to keep sanitizing my hands throughout the event as I touch my mask. Make your best effort for future discussions. Just make your best effort to complete the piece. Try to watch the film at home or read the book or whatever it is we're going to be discussing that month. Come ready to both share and listen. Be ready to back up your opinions with the why. Self-censor, try to use I statements. For example, instead of saying the book is too long, say something like, I thought the book was too long. But anyway, overall, just try to have a great time. And if you stop enjoying it, let us know. Here are some support group guidelines that we like to read at the beginning of all of our group discussions. So the concerns of this group is to create a supportive atmosphere for all group participants. We make confidentiality a top priority. Outside of the group, we can discuss situations, but never use names or other identifying information. Within the group, we must maintain confidentiality. We provide support by listening carefully, sharing our own stories, and relating our own problem-solving experiences. We are sensitive to each person's stage in the awareness and acceptance process. We are supportive rather than confrontational. Everyone will be given a chance to speak. However, no one person should monopolize the conversation. So side discussions are discouraged as each person's remarks are important to the whole group. So today, Michael has very graciously volunteered to lead our discussion. We will be discussing the 1997 film Love, Valor, and Compassion. We'll talk a little more about how this film is based on a play, a Broadway play. I'm terrible with my Broadway culture, so Jeffrey and Michael will be a great resource for this discussion. So, agree, Michael, we're all set.
All right,
Yeah.
so the film, as we said, was Love, Valor, Compassion. I happened to have it on DVD in my home, which was good because it wasn't widely available for streaming or download. The local public library here in Naples did have a copy of it, but it's a little hard to get hold of, but really well worth it. It is an older film. As Victor said, it came out in 1997 as a film. It was a film of a 1995 Broadway play, but it started off in 94 off Broadway. It was written by Terrence McNally and directed by Joe Mantillo. And both of them, obviously the author stayed the same, but Joe Mantillo also directed the film as well as the play. So there was some consistency in the direction. I don't know, because we've got such a small group, I would invite anybody who may see this in the future to let us know where you saw it so we can start to recruit more people to the organization and to getting them involved with this. Right now, we haven't got a big marketing machine and we need to find a way to do that. But we usually start, if anybody wants to, I'm prepared to review the plot, but I don't know if anybody wants to talk about what they thought a summary of it is. I always like to start with a summary of what people think happened in the story and what the theme, what they thought the author was trying to tell us, what the message of the thing was. And then I've got some questions and some factoids that I've got that'll prompt any thought or discussion that we might want to go through. So anybody want to talk about the summary, or do you want me to just give my best? Sounds like a yes for you. So I jotted it down because I do terrible extemporaneously, but so the summary that I came up with is the plot centers on 8 gay men, all of a certain age, I'd call them middle age, who vacation together at an upstate New York country home for 3 separate summertime holiday weekends, the beginning of the summer, the middle of the summer, and towards the end of the summer. The group talks, laughs, explores the boundaries of the relationships, and also attempts to grapple with some of life's more profound and difficult questions. One of those questions clearly throughout the play becomes increasingly, it's how the community is dealing with HIV and the onset of AIDS. This is relatively early in the pandemic when there was really no hope. When you have a diagnosis, it was pretty much a death sentence that at some point you were going to bloom into full disease. And it's how these characters relate and feel during that process. Just to give a little bit, I did a little bit of research, and the author said what he was trying to do with the play is he said, I wanted to write about what it's like to be a gay man at this particular moment in our history. I think I wanted to tell my friends how much they've meant to me. And I think I wanted to tell everyone else who we are when they aren't around. And for me, that was really honest, because that's the thing that's most remarkable about this film is it really feels like it captures authentic friendships. It feels like people we've known in our lives. It feels like the right dynamic when we're all together, having a good time, in this case, just sitting around a country home having drinks, you know. So for me, that was a very uh, effective piece. I think he really accomplished what he's setting out to do. And so we watched it together as a group. And Jeffrey, if I can start with you, can you give us a little bit, because you're familiar with the theater piece, the actual play, and had seen the original cast. So how did you feel about it, particularly the film versus the what you remember seeing on the stage? Differences or things you liked about it that were consistent?
Well, the interesting part was most of the original cast from the Broadway show was in the movie, except, excuse me, except for Nathan Lane, who was played by James
Right.
And I personally thought the stage play was better than the movie. It was longer for one thing. I think they shortened.
It's over 3 hours on the stage.
Yeah.
The film is not 3 hours,
Oh,
so.
wow.
Yeah. So I thought it was better when it was longer. But I think they did a great job with the film. I think it's tough. It's moving. It's directed beautifully. I thought the acting was terrific. And yeah, I liked it. I mean, I'm feel privileged that I got to see the original show on Broadway.
I feel jealous that you got to see it.
It was a great show.
Yeah.
It's a great story too.
If I can ask a question, you say it was longer, and I noticed something, and I was thinking, picking it up in some of my research, but I wanted to see how you felt about it. What do you think what the difference was? If they cut it out, do you note what they cut out? Because something that occurred to me is that on the stage, one of the things that the reviews talked a lot about was that the character would break the fourth wall and frequently would turn and address the audience. And he could say something as a character and then turn and say what's in his mind, and the rest of the characters wouldn't know that. So he may say something and say he was dead 3 years later from HIV, but you wouldn't know that. What other differences? But I think that would have to be a big one, because I don't remember any point in the movie where they addressed the audience.
That was the biggest difference.
Yeah, I would think that. And it's interesting because I thought if Joe Mantello was directing both, it had to be hard for him to find ways to put all those monologues that otherwise would have been spoken right to the audience into a scene where the viewer would know the same thing that the audience would do.
Yes.
And I'm not sure how he did that, but if you had any recollection, I'd love to know. But you noticed that as well.
Well, it was done with a lot of shadows and light, and the direction was really what made it, because it's just the way the focus, they had on, a certain scene would happen on one side of the stage, and they had the lights would just hit that side of the stage, and then it would, veer over to the other side, and then it'd be another scene. And so it's interesting to watch the different scenes happen that way.
It's almost theatrical in and of itself, instead of having the whole stage with everybody to kind of make them vignettes, almost like cut into another scene.
That's exactly what they did. So it was interesting to kind of follow his mind. It wasn't like the movie where it was more fleshed out. I mean, it still was like individual scenes, but you could see the house, you could see the whole of it in the movie. But in the stage, you just saw that scene. So you're focused in on that scene.
Neat. Did anybody happen to notice? I only got it as I was reading, and I didn't hear anybody pick up what I thought was the obvious observation. But there's 8 characters, one of which was a man named John and his brother James. John was a very unpleasant, probably the most non-redeeming character in the play. Everyone else probably has love, valor, or compassion in them to some degree, but I didn't see any of that with John. And his brother is James, but I happened to pick out what John's last name was. Did anybody note that? Did you note that?
No.
He had a twin brother, and his name was Jekyll, John Jekyll.
Oh.
Which seems to be pretty obvious that what they're saying is, here's the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, here's the guy, John Hyde, if it were, and then his brother comes along who is as good and kind as his other brother is, and it seemed to me that had to be an obvious effort by McNally to create a little. It's funny because I wouldn't have known them, but Bobby, the guy who hosts the place, is a dancer, and his last name is Brahms, which was interesting. So I think he used some literary license to kind of, I don't think they factored much. I'm not sure how much they say it even in the play, But it's interesting that the names seem to be, the others didn't really do it. It was Bobby Brahms, Gregory Mitchell was the host who owned the house, nothing telling there. And then Ramon Fornos was the young Puerto Rican who kind of disrupts the status quo of the friendships. Bud Hauser is the Nathan Lane, Jason Alexander character. John Jekyll and James Jekyll. And then Perry Sellers and Arthur Page were the two bookends. How'd you guys feel about those characters? Because I had thoughts about them, and it was interesting. The one that at one point they ask Bobby, who's blind, what he thinks these two lovers that have been together for forever look like. One's an accountant and one's a lawyer, I think. And he says they look like bookends, which I thought was really cute. And the thing that he used that I thought was so cute, because my ex and I used to do this, and he said, and I imagine that when they're driving, they hold hands until he has to take his hands off, and then he puts it back again as quick as I can. And you do that with a boyfriend when you're driving, you know? It was a really sweet and honest motion. How did you feel about those characters? Because I had one thought about Perry, who was the slightly snarkier of the two.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I about all the characters or those.
Well, any of the character observations would be great, because I think they're so well drawn that there's a lot to be said about each and every one.
Okay. I enjoyed seeing how all the stories developed for all the characters. I thought it was very entertaining and also very believable. More on the believable side, I would say. I thought the acting was great, and so I really like the characters. I do have my favorites. I have my least favorites. I think for me, Ramon and the harsher brother, John, they were probably my two least favorite characters. But even then, I felt like the way that they interacted with the rest of the characters really made me feel compassionate towards them as well. I thought the rest of them were generally a lot kinder, and they inspired me to be more compassionate towards these other characters that I wasn't too fond of.
Did you have a preference among the two? If you had to have dinner with either Ramon or John, which one would you prefer to have dinner with? Forgetting the one so cute.
Okay, well, it's kind of hard. No, actually, I think I would enjoy dinner with either of them. But I guess after knowing what I know now, I would probably enjoy dinner with. I think with Ramon. It's hard. I don't know.
You know what I think? I agree. The reason I ask is because as I was reading through some stuff, they were talking about Ramon's role in this is to be a new outsider who doesn't know the dynamics of the group and to come in so that he can disrupt that group. But he ultimately does dance and have compassion and is sympathetic. John, I keep going through my head thinking, is there anything I like about John Jekyll? And there was nothing. And the scene that really broke my heart is when he goes to his dying brother in bed as his brother's crashing from an attack from full onset AIDS. And you think he's going to have this beautiful conversation of bonding. And the first words out of his mouth are, "I have always resented you." And I thought, there's nothing redeeming in this guy at all. He's telling his dying brother how much he's resented him his whole life. He didn't have anything truly compassionate. And if you look at the title as the themes, I think that Terrence McNally was trying to say that these gay friendships are frequently held together by love, by valor and compassion. All of them, the love was evident. I kept thinking of Valor, and I keep thinking of Buzz, the show queen, as being so brave in the way he was dealing with HIV. I mean, he was scared to death, but he was pretty bold about it. He talked about it. He was much more repressed or unrepressed about it, And you think about just the boldness of all of them in their lives. And the John character had no redeeming qualities. I kept wanting to see something that made me feel sorry for him. And I did. I think it's a testament to John Glover's portrayal that you feel pity for him, but mostly because you're thinking he hasn't built a single thing of beauty in his life. He's just used. And I mean, he's even there with a young boy. Clearly, it's not a relationship of quality. It's not built on the person. You can tell that Ramon has no interest in being with John as a couple. But I did think Ramon was probably an artistic license of a way to say, how can we show how tight this group is and a little bit of how hard it might be to penetrate. I mean, this guy comes in, he cheats with the one guy, or tries to. I don't know. I felt really bad for the one character because I didn't think he really did full out cheat on his boyfriend, but he took the full brunt of it for that. So,
I guess for me, this reminds me of not to talk too much about who, our previous president, but I remember in one debate, they were asked, Hillary and Donald Trump were asked what kind of qualities they found positive in each other, and Hillary Clinton said, well, I think Donald Trump's redeeming qualities are his children, because they love him so much.
mhm.
So this discussion reminds me of that situation where maybe for me, one of the main redeeming qualities for John is his friends. I think he has like a great group of friends, and I don't know. I wonder what else that says about John himself, if he's able to, keep those connections with these great guys. So
That's true. I would like
Sure.
to have known the history of that friendship to see how
yeah,
he entered being with these really great guys.
because even one of them is pretty. He does not. One of the guys in the couple, I forget. Is it Perry?
Perry,
I think he's the more outspoken. And
he's the slightly snarky one who also I found when I was reading I had forgotten that he was once lovers with John.
okay, so I see that they have like some conflict. But other than that, the other
So
one's
why do you
kinda
think that is?
tolerable.
And I had a theory after I was reading a little bit. I had a theory for why you thought, I mean, other than the fact that they're exes, and exes always spark a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts for why Perry and John would have been like a little? My thought is because remember how Perry could be really snarky. Like at one point he gives a monologue about how he's just sick of AIDS and AIDS fundraisers. And that sounds a little bit like John. And I wonder if he was
Yeah.
sparked a little bit and didn't like this guy because he saw a little bit of himself
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
this guy when he did that.
I wonder, yeah, because now I'm remembering, and this is important to note. I think we were going through a pretty important time in our fight for civil rights, and I remember now in the film, Perry makes a pretty racist comment against Black people.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe like John is some type of reflection of everybody in a way, and no, I don't know.
I think you're right.
'Cause-
Well, that's why I think the Jekyll and Hyde thing is that, I mean, the whole idea of was it Robert Louis Stevenson read Jekyll and Hyde is that in all of us, there's a good side and a bad side.
So maybe he's the
Yeah, he's got the good side, but he sees the bad side creeping in every now. John is literally like somebody took a knife and split him into him and his brother, the good one and the bad one. And I think that was almost intentional, but
Are you all familiar with the work, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Is that right?
yeah.
I don't. Did you guys? I've never seen it or read the book.
Oh my gosh, I'm so old.
Okay. No,
It's a Victorian horror story about a doctor who does experiments and finds a way. He takes a potion or something, and it ends up literally causing him to become somewhat schizophrenic and becoming he's Dr. Jekyll. He's a good guy. He falls in love with a woman and he's all normal. But when he takes this potion to try and eliminate his dark side, he ends up basically at times morphing into this character who is just representing all of his bad sides. So it was Robert Louis Stevenson's way of saying in each of us there is a good and a bad side, always somewhat at odds with other. Billy Joel would say, the dark side or whatever it was. What's the song he did? It's not Under Pressure, but there's a Billy Joel song about watching out for your dark side. But in any case, I think that for me, that's what it was. And I think Perry is the closest. It's almost like they're just trajectory. So if you look at the sweetest ones, I think probably Bobby, the blind one, was probably one of the purest.
Yeah.
And watching him grieve when he finds out his sister's dead, is so different than watching John tell his brother, yeah, I've always resented you. It's like the worst the worst way to grieve and the best, the most innocent and the most horrific, So I thought that was pretty brilliant there.
Yeah.
So here's something, certainly watching the film, even for a film that came out in 97, it offended us at times or made us shocked. The language, some of the words, some of the racism, and a lot of nudity in the play. What do you think the purpose of the nudity was, and was it necessary? Apparently when it came out, a lot of the critics felt necessary to say, there's a lot of nudity in this, beware, there's a lot of naked guys in this. And then I saw one review I was looking at for the movie that went so far as to say, the movie's better than the theater play because they've removed some of the nudity so it's less garish or in your face.
So there's less nudity in the film?
Yeah, and there was a lot of nudity in the film, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
So I'm curious because I had a theory about that and I'm wondering, so I was wondering, do you think the nudity was necessary? And any thoughts on it? You saw the stage show, how did it feel?
Yeah, I have thoughts on nudity in art
Uh-huh,
in general.
okay.
So first of all, I wanted to say Nathan Lane was asked to be nude in the show and he didn't want to do it. So what Nathan Lane wants, Nathan Lane gets, basically. So
Was his character naked in the play?
it was not. He had he had the apron.
So you only saw the back side
I
of
only
it?
saw the backside of him, and everyone laughed, and it was funny. And Jason Alexander did the same thing in the movie.
Mhm.
And he was, I saw an interview with him, he said he was happy that
Nathan Lane.
Nathan only did that because he was the only one that got away with not
Not
having to
seeing.
be naked.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think there's several reasons to have nudity in art. One, I believe that it could be used artistically, which I believe in this movie it is. Actually, I believe in this movie it's twofold. On one side, it's done artistically, showing, that the guys don't care. They're a group of gay men who are in this country house privately, and they want to do skinny dipping, and that's fun, and it's free, and it's, it's like the sexual revolution type thing. They're just having fun, and no one's telling them they shouldn't do it. But on the flip side, nudity is also enjoyable to watch. So I think in a gay play or a gay movie, you can expect it to be there because it'll get butts in the seats.
It does get attention. I go to them for sure.
What?
I'll go to a gay play that's got nudity in it for sure, absolutely.
Yeah. In
So,
fact,
that's good.
Take Me Out. Oh, I just wanted to say there's also a musical about Jekyll and Hyde too.
Oh, yeah,
Going
Linda
back to
Edwards.
Jekyll and Hyde.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a musical too, which is
We
terrific.
have so much work to do with you, Victor.
Yeah, I need to catch up.
I was wondering
I
if,
just wanted to say, what was I saying? The nudity of,
the commercial value and the artistic value.
Take Me Out. Do you know Take Me Out?
Yeah,
So that's a terrific show. Did you see it or?
I did see it. Yeah.
Okay. So in Take Me Out is about a baseball team, and the most famous part of the show is the shower scene because they're all standing full frontal, totally nude. That was, although the show itself I think is brilliant, the writing and the direction, I thought, and acting, it was terrific. But really, that was the main thing about that show was everybody, you have to see the show because all the men are naked in it, and they're all well endowed, and you really want to see it. So,
I just wonder if when to try and understand why nudity may be considered artistic. For me, what it did was it really forced home the intimacy of the group. Excuse me. It lets you know that these were a group of people who they literally were shieldless. They had nothing to hide. And I think when you see somebody naked, there's a certain vulnerability to them. You see them, in completely unclothed. And I think that's how it was meant to. I think that's why he did that to some extent. I'd like to think anyway, I felt more vulnerable for them. I felt like, there's a scene where they're out on the raft in the lake and it's just almost raw with emotion because they're just kind of talking about, their most private thoughts. And it's interesting to see that happen. And it was funny because intimacy is used a lot in the film. I think that's the whole idea, is that this group was so connected with each other. I mean, they almost knew what each other was thinking before they said it. So I was just wondering about nudity and intimacy and thinking, I think that's part of what he was showing is the value of a friendship. I mean, as we're looking through, we look through, the books we've read and so far, I think we're going to find as we get more into looking at gay culture, that building family is going to be a big part. When you're gay and your family dynamics can be very difficult, we begin community frequently, whether it's a gay bar or our friend groups, we build very tight, intimate circles. You build family to replace the family that you had, or to supplement the family if you're close with your family. And I think that is intimacy. And I don't mean intimacy in a sexual sense, I mean intimacy in a vulnerable sense, where you share at the deepest levels.
There's also, I just want to add, there's also the actor's perspective of it, and it stretches the actor's capabilities, I think, on stage to be able to go through a process like that. Some people don't care. Some actors are just like, this is just what I can do.
Yeah.
But a lot of actors aren't comfortable with it, or they have to, talk to someone about it and really go through a process. And so it stretches them, in my mind, as an actor. And it, makes them a better actor because of it, I think.
Yeah. I think you'd have to be, I mean, I've gone to enough theater, but I'm not an actor. But I would imagine you feel very vulnerable, unless you just, as some actors are just, probably disconnect or cloak themselves so thoroughly in character. But I think if you're in the moment, you have to feel vulnerable standing naked in front of a group of people, a whole theater of people, It's funny because I did do some research into the Nathan Lane thing, looking to see if there's a controversy, and I don't want to cloak him with anything that maybe he didn't do. I cannot find anything that says he didn't want to do it for any particular reason. The speculation was that he had just made Birdcage and didn't want to be such an overtly character so quickly again in movies. But the director just refused. Nobody is talking about it, and the director said it was just a scheduling thing. So I suspect there may or may not have been something to it, but I suspect there was something to it, but I can't find any proof of it. But I would think if he is on record as saying, I don't like being naked in the play, that level of vulnerability may have been hard for him right then and there, and to do it again.
Yeah, but also there's the political aspect to this, where nowadays in 2021, it's like an accepted thing, or it's like a role model type situation where actors and celebrities, sports figures, and government politicians come out and they want people to know they're gay or LGBTQ. But at that time, Nathan Lane I think he was not out. He was out in.
I think you're right. I think he was still,
but in the
he's still not
times,
publicly out.
He wasn't publicly out. So I think that was a choice.
True, yeah.
To say, okay, the Birdcage, it was a huge success. Did you see Birdcage?
Yeah. I've seen that.
Huge.
Good boy.
Yeah.
That was condescending, I'm sorry.
Also based on a musical, by the way.
Okay.
La Cage aux Folles. Have you heard of La Cage aux Folles?
No.
Which is also based on a French film called La Cage aux Folles, or The Birdcage, same thing. And so it was kind of an evolution from the French film to the musical to The Birdcage. And I don't think they ever made a movie of La Cage aux Folles, a musical.
No, I think you're right. It's been revived a couple times as a show, but I don't think it's ever been a movie as a musical.
At any rate, I think at that time that's just, and I don't know him personally, but I would believe that to me makes the most sense, unless there was some kind of other thing, maybe scheduling or money, I have no idea, but it makes sense. Maybe he didn't want to be typecast as a gay man, so that way he knew other roles.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old would he have been at the time?
Nathan Lane?
At the time, right?
Well, this was, let's see here. How old would you say Nathan Lane is now? In his 50s? 60s?
Here we go. I still have it up. So
Maybe 60.
so he's 65. I just found.
So this is about 25 years ago, right?
So he was 40.
He probably, yeah, in his late 30s or 40s.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think he broke out big on Broadway till Guys and Dolls. Wasn't that his biggest break? I think that's when I remember him becoming such a big deal.
Well, he did, a funny thing happened with the Forum,
But I think wasn't that after Guys and
might have
Dolls?
been after Gravity
Yeah.
Falls.
Yeah, now he's huge. Now he's like, a staple. He's one
Now
of the
he's a
biggest.
Hollywood, big Hollywood
yeah,
celebrity.
and he's huge on Broadway too.
Yeah.
So I had a couple other questions I had written down, and I don't know, I don't have answers for them, but I just was wondering, like, one of the things I saw critics say is, and it was interesting because the critic said, do you think a film like this could ever be made about a group of straight men? Of course not. Nothing like this is not like relationships with straight men. And I thought to myself, well, I don't know. Movies like, what was it? It wasn't Diner. It was, oh, there was a famous one, but I can't remember. But there are movies where a group of guys, college guys, get together in their, old age and kind of relive and shoot the breeze and all that. I think it could be. But I think what makes us uniquely a group of gay friends as opposed to just a group of any friends? Is there anything that made this uniquely gay in your minds?
Uniquely gay?
Yeah. Could that have been a group of men and women, or a group of women, or a group of straight guys? Could the film have carried the same tone or theme? I don't think it could nowadays, but I do think it's what I feel anyway, what I was saying earlier, is I do think it goes back to that family that gay community builds, whether it's in a pride center or in a gay bar, we build families around ourselves. I mean, my friends I love my family and they're great. And I've been a very blessed gay man that I haven't had anybody in my family, treat me differently for being gay. I was blessed that way. But I still have friends that are the closest people in my life. That if I had to be stuck on a desert island with one person, I would miss my family very much and have a good time with some of my friends.
Yeah.
That's just, and I don't know if that exists the same way in the street.
I don't know, my opinion, I don't know if this is a uniquely gay experience, because I'm thinking, I know straight couples that share a house.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is that
It can happen, and women do it, and
Yeah.
all sorts of different people can do it. So I don't think it's really a uniquely gay experience, but what I do think is that this movie is a uniquely positive gay experience.
but there's, even with
Differently, like the Boys in the
Yeah.
Band, which is more like a negative experience, where
Right.
everyone's psychologically
Right.
going through there. Do you know the Boys in the Band?
I've heard.
We
haven't
talked
seen
about
yet.
it.
We talked about it last
We have
time.
so many movies to watch.
Yeah.
That would be a good one.
Yeah, for
Maybe.
sure.
It's more like psychologically.
Well, it's a period piece of
Uh,
how negative the community was towards itself.
Yeah, self-hatred and self.
Yeah.
But this is more positive.
So I'm intrigued.
Relationships and.
Yeah, I'm intrigued because on one hand, I could see, you're right. I mean, I have a lot of friends and you see, not to go to stereotypes, but you see sitcoms with couples all sitting around their game night. These are the best of friends and they've been there for forever, and you think that. But then maybe it's just hubris, but I wonder, I still think to myself, the fact that these men were all losing friends and facing HIV, I don't know in the straight community there's ever been anything where we're friends and we're going to be together until we die. And for some of us, that's going to be sooner than others. And that, I do think, creates a sense of intimacy that might be stronger. But maybe I'm just feeling competitive. I don't know. But
I see your point.
Yeah.
I think it could happen anyway. I think gay people, I think homosexuals are more, at least men, are more sensitive and compassionate with each other. Although some aren't, some can be very bitchy and snippy and maybe not so compassionate, but I think the gay sensibility is more compassionate toward each other than straight and gay people.
right. And it's
I
not
think
ironic
straight
that that's
people-
one of the words in the title of the film, in the play, compassion.
And lesbians and gay men seem to bond that way too, together.
I think of the Buzz character and how tragic for him to meet and fall in love with somebody in the summer who he's going to have 15 minutes with,
Yeah.
That just, that creates a level of intimacy and I don't know,
It's such a pretty.
cohesion that would be hard to duplicate in other circumstances. But, and I guess the last thought I had, and I'm curious about it, what do you think the symbolism of the dance from Swan Lake was?
Good question.
And, you know, again, I have my thoughts on it, but I don't know if they're, you know, there's a great group that's out. I saw them years ago. And Jeffrey, you may have seen, you have so much culture in your life, but Ballet Trocadero, Monte Carlo, have you ever seen them? This is a group of all men that dress as women and do great ballet. And they're doing it on point and it's serious talent. But they blend humor in it. And they did Swan Lake. They did the Dying Swan, which is a different number than was done here. And it's just hysterical watching this man. And the shtick was he had a feather tutu and he was on point doing the Dying Swan. And as he did it, all the feathers slowly fell out of the tutu, like it was literally dying. So anyway, I wondered, it's almost an homage. I'm wondering if because ballet, particularly that with the tutus, is such a feminine thing. And for me, I'm wondering if it was, you know, which character wouldn't dance in it? Was that Perry who wouldn't dance in it?
I think Perry, the snarky
Yeah.
one, he didn't.
See, even that makes sense. I mean, John clearly didn't do it.
John didn't do it.
He was not, but Perry was kind of borderline. He wanted to do it. I mean, he wanted to be supportive, so he went there and watched, but he didn't do it. Everyone else had enough, I'm going to use the word valor because it's obvious why, enough balls, pardon me, or enough chutzpah to say, this is important. I feel like a fool, and I'm going to do it. And I think it was kind of embracing the whole feminine. There they are in tutus, white tutus, dancing ballet on point. And I'm thinking it's kind of saying, how comfortable are you with decrying your masculinity? How comfortable are you with embracing who you are? Do you have the chutzpah to go this far with it?
Well, you know what? Also, another aspect to this might just be me. I don't know for sure.
It's art. It's all whatever you want it to be.
Well, because I would love to talk to Terrence McNally and see what he thinks or why he did it. But I was thinking because there's a blind character, it's interesting to see the blind character dancing with the other men.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I thought, that's the reason. I make it up in my mind. I have no
No,
idea.
that's actually
I
a
have no
really good
idea that's the reason.
observation.
But I thought, it's interesting, a blind man dancing with the other men, and he can't see, and he doesn't. And they're holding each other.
Yeah,
and
and
there's
the lanes,
symbolism
yeah.
in the holding each other, and they're helping him dance. And I thought,
Sweet, yeah.
that might be the reason, just to show a blind man can dance along with you know, seeing men, and have a terrific time just like they did.
Yeah, I think that's a great read on it. To me, that is, whether it is helping a blind man dance or bonding together with something to help the community, because it was a fundraiser for HIV. So it didn't matter. The whole idea was, I don't want to do this, but I will do this because it's helpful to somebody. You know, the compassion part of it again. So I loved it. I thought it was great. But I was now you brought up something that I'm intrigued with. What do you think was the reason that Bobby is blind? Why do you think he had a blind character?
I don't know. That's something I would have to
Yeah.
think about or ask him, and there might have been a reason, like the Puerto Rican character. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is I'm wondering if it was, you remember at one point, I think he says the Puerto Rican character is flirting with the blind character, and the blind character says to, I think, James, the sweet British one, is he cute? And he says, I think the word they use is hot or something. And maybe that's it. Like, you can trust the purity of this guy because unlike in the gay world where we will all turn out to see a stage show with nudity in it, this guy can't see that. So his relationships are pure. They're not based on aesthetics at all, what you look like or who you are. So I wonder if that helps to make him a more innocent character, is that he's not influenced by beauty in that way.
Yes.
You know?
I think when you brought up the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde reference and parallel, it just kept me thinking about everybody's role in the storyline. And now I'm wondering if, like, in a way, every character kind of like a representation of a part of what it means to be a gay man, maybe. So I think like
Yeah.
that purity that you mentioned, that we see, I see it too in the blind character. Um, I
I
think
think you're
that's
onto something there.
I think that's like something that I feel like I can relate to. I think there's like certain life experiences as a gay man that really just take you from being naive and innocent about aesthetics and visuals and just sexuality in general into becoming one of the other characters.
Now I really want to write to the author because I think you just hit it now. Because I'm looking here going, all right, Bobby Brahms was blind, so he could be the gay version of sensitivity because you remember him crying with his sister.
How many characters was it total?
There's 8 total.
8.
So Bobby was the blind one, and he could represent the gay side of sensitivity, and you know, and then Gregory was the dancer who could represent the artistic side of gay men, and then Ramon is clearly the sexual side of gay men, and then Buzz is the campy side of gay men, and then John Jekyll and James Jekyll might be a separate category altogether, which is good and bad, but maybe good and evil. We all have that in our. Then Peter and Arthur, I'm not sure. I mean, it kind of represent a traditional couple. There's nothing too crazy about them, but I don't see them in that. But I think you might be right. Certainly there are archetypes among those characters.
You made me think of another possible reason why he's blind and in this movie. And you both just sparked my mind and reminded me what I initially did think when I watched the movie initially, or the show initially, and every incarnation after that. I remember thinking, you know, I never thought of it. I know a lot of LGBTQ people enough to feel that I'm experienced with the community.
Right.
Let's just say that.
Okay.
But I really never considered that there are gay blind men,
Yeah.
because it was the first time I ever saw one, and suddenly it dawned on me. I said, "Oh yeah, I guess a blind man can also be gay."
Yeah, I know a couple non-hearing gay guys, but I don't think I do know somebody who's blind, but they have to be there. There's no reason that community should be exempt from the same statistics that we all are subject to, you know?
Yes. The humanity of being gay, basically.
I love the film. I mean, if I were giving it a score, I don't know, that's might be pretty close to a 10 for me. I think it was an ambitious film, and I think it succeeded at just every level. And I expected it to look more dated, and I expected it to be, the only thing that was all uncomfortable was just sometimes the racist stuff that came out, but I think it was meant to be viewed with a negative eye. But for the most part, I give it a pretty strong film. I think it's a very strong message, very well executed, and an ambitious message. It's not something, you know, it's funny because in thinking about it as a stage play, the reason it doesn't obviously make a good movie is nothing happens in it. I mean, there's little things that happen, but you know, it isn't like Star Wars. And then they get the plane, and then they destroy the Death Star, and then this happens, and then they run away to this planet. It's just conversations. It's just eavesdropping on 3 sets of conversations, you know. Yeah, there's a little bit of hanky-panky with the one character and all that to start things, but a couple revelations of health issues with the HIV, but for the most part, you're just eavesdropping. And that works well on a stage, but in a movie, it's like, all right, you know, it's not a whole lot of plot to talk about.
I don't really like go to theater much. You guys already know.
We'll fix that.
Yeah. But I mean, I've enjoyed these types of films a lot where they're just very introspective and you get to know the characters by their body language, their quirks, some events that maybe that wouldn't be too public generally, or so I enjoy like this type of storytelling. So like I watched Monsoon recently, which is a newer film with Henry Golding.
I don't know.
You guys, so do you know who he is? He's the Crazy Rich Asians, the main character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he was gay in this film, which was pretty fun, pretty exciting
Good to watch.
or yeah, if you have a crush on Henry Golding. Yeah, it was also felt very introspective too. So that I enjoy those types of films. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I think I also would give it a higher rating. I think um, lately, like as of the last couple of years, I've become a lot more aware though about, including characters of color and actors of color in books and stories and films and everything. So I guess that would be another of my main, like, I guess, qualms with it. It's just, I mean, we have Ramon and he's Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and
And not terribly admirable.
not terribly admirable. And then not that, I mean, he seemed to embrace his femininity a little more courageously, I would say, than some of the other characters.
Yeah, I don't
So
think
I-
you had any problem with that.
So I like that, yeah. So I like that about him.
Do you
but
think this film could be reshot with a recast?
I think it would do like our culture a lot of good if it was recast with a uh, more diverse cast. Because now and then that also makes me wonder too, what other films out there are somewhat similar that tell that story, tell that part of the LGBTQ story in the world, really, regarding AIDS and its impact on our culture and our lives. So I know Pose has been pretty popular lately.
It has holes?
Pose, have you all seen that?
No.
You've seen it? Okay.
Holes?
You might enjoy it, Michael.
POSE?
You've
Oh,
seen
Pose, yes, I
You've
have
seen
seen
it.
it.
Yeah, okay, all right.
I was hearing holes and I'm thinking, oh, it's a book I haven't read, okay.
Yeah, so I think I appreciated the way they've told the experiences of LGBTQ folk of color while they're going through the AIDS epidemic.
Right.
So I think that's maybe like one piece that I think is doing that part of the work. But I would really enjoy this film as well, or probably the play as well, with a more diverse cast.
Hmm.
I mean, and I've mentioned to you guys before, it is my experience as an immigrant here too, to really be like aware of those parts of like popular culture, the representation.
Right.
So, and it's not something that people do purposefully sometimes, misrepresent or underrepresent. I don't think that's always done purposefully. Sometimes it is. But it's good to be aware and talk about it and remember that the U.S. is composed of like a pretty diverse group of people, so fairly diverse group of people. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a good film.
Do we want to try and talk some more about it, or do you want to wrap up and talk a little bit about what we want to do next, or?
What do you really think? Do you have any other points that you?
I don't, and just thinking of response to what you're saying, I think you're absolutely right. And I actually think it could be recast. The only thing that makes it a certain way is that it's a waspy place, an upstate New York house at this time. And I wonder if that would be hurting at all. Well, Pose is grounded in the African American drag culture. That did happen there, So
I would imagine this is not based on a real story, but is based
Right.
in reality.
Right.
I'm sure it did happen.
yeah,
So it's not unheard of to not have happened.
yeah. Well, it'll be interesting. It's funny because I just seen on HBO Max, I think I may have mentioned it to both of you guys, but I'll mention it again. There's a new series. Well, it's not a new series. There's a series on HBO Max. It's limited. I think it's 8 to 10 episodes. It's a British import called It's a Sin. And it talks about the advent of the HIV and AIDS epidemic in London during that time. This is a feel-good movie, certainly compared to that one. That one, if it doesn't bring you to your knees with tears, you're not human. It's just pretty heartbreaking. And it's interesting because the whole catalog of HIV has so many different components. I'm curious, when you talk about telling that story or that episode in the LGBT community, it'd almost be interesting to take a subcategory of these films and say, all right, this is it. Is this more about AIDS or is it about intimacy and relationships?
Okay.
Which I think it is more about that. I think
About-
AIDS is the secondary story. So
You know what also
Okay.
is there, which I don't really know that this is what the play or slash movie is about. But what is very interesting is what I consider, actually, I will say this play or this movie is also a comment on how the general population of homosexual men, I think, are more masculine than feminine. Because in this movie, they have really only one feminine man, and then that would be
James.
the guy who's
British
sick.
James, yeah.
And then also Nathan, Jason Alexander's Bud is more on the feminine side.
He's campy, yeah, he certainly is.
But the rest of them are more masculine with a little bit of sass.
Yeah.
But that to me is a huge comment on, it could have been generational. Maybe in 97,
Yeah.
that's what happens. But I think in my mind, what you see on TV or movies of the past, you see, mainly the people who stuck out were the flamboyant ones and the drag queens and people that were very feminine. Like for instance, on Soap, Billy Crystal's character, he's very feminine and he represented, in my mind, like the gay community at that time. But I don't know that that's necessarily true.
Yeah, I don't know.
It could be generational. Maybe
Yeah.
it was just a bunch of flaming queens that I don't know, because I'm younger than that, but.
Well, I don't know. I don't think you're wrong, but I feel like my recollection of that time is that people who were out as a gay person were very, again, I think I said this in the group, but when I was in high school, I was closeted. I didn't come out, but there was one guy who just was living his natural self, and I had so much respect for him, but he was clearly, he was the guy on the piano and all the shows and every stereotype you would have, he was it. And I think when you live your life fearless, you can embrace all those things, I don't know if it's true or not, but for me, gay people, one of the strengths of being gay is it puts you in touch with other parts of our personalities that heterosexuals push down or don't indulge in. And I think how comfortable you are expressing that is depending on your circle, But I do think in the 70s, I know the first time I went to a gay bar was in 1977. I would go into that bar, but I'd look around to make sure nobody saw me going into that bar that I knew, because I didn't want that to get out to anybody. And that was at the end of that. That was probably more fear than a real concern. I don't know many people that were like, oh my gosh, did you see somebody going into a gay bar? It was a known gay bar. It was popular. It was, but that was probably more my fear of it. But I don't know. No, I think it's a valid observation that probably, for the most part, people would be more inclined to hide their feminine side in
Maybe,
1977.
I don't know about hiding it as much as just naturally being it. I'm not convinced that I'm slightly convinced it's a generational thing, but I don't know that for a fact. Because if I go to a gay bar now or a gay club, you can see mostly masculine gay men. Just, I don't want to say straight acting, but I prefer to say masculine. And with the occasional feminine, maybe one out of every 10 men, there'll be one that's, just flamboyant and just kind of out there. But I don't know that represents the gay community as a whole now. And
I would
in
have
my
thought the opposite.
generation,
Yeah, I would.
in my generation, that's what I've experienced. But the past, I don't know about, because I wasn't there. I don't know for sure at Stonewall, if I was a fly on the wall at Stonewall, which I'd love to be at that time, I don't know if I would have seen, a bunch of, flamboyant, men just kind of, everybody just being, fabulous,
Or
or,
drag queens at Stonewall, that's who
yeah,
started the
or do you
revolution.
have to be a drag queen to do that? And then like the rest of them were just masculine men hanging out like they are now.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure if it was the same or if it was, an evolution of gay men,
Yeah.
where now we're just kind of like, hey, what's up? Like
Yeah.
just
I,
kind of
for me, it feels like
men.
your sexuality and gender expression seems to be much more fluid now than it even was 20 years ago.
Hmm.
And the whole Kinsey idea of you're either gay or straight, Kinsey kind of said there's a scale and everybody falls somewhere on that scale. And I feel like that's what we're starting to see, is that even those in the gay community who don't want to label themselves as gay or straight or queer or whatever, it's like, you know what? I don't have to be 0 or 8. I can be anything in there that I appeal to, so I don't need to label myself. But I do think there's something to be said that those people who were bold enough to be flamboyant before it was safer to be flamboyant, if it is still safe to be flamboyant, I do think they tend to have more guts. I think that's why drag queens probably are the people who started Stonewall, is they were already probably getting more oppression because they were visible.
Yeah.
But also they were already pretty bold and in your face. So how much further does it take? I mean, for you to stand up and attack a police officer because they're attacking gays, if you're not feminine, you're essentially outing yourself to that police officer. I've had some discussions with folks about which is worse, not worse because it's not a competition, but, discrimination in the gay community, in some ways, for me, I've always thought it's worse because no other minority is told that they are essentially evil and going to hell. But it's also better because we can closet ourselves. We don't walk down the street and you're not known to be gay just by walking down, where if your color or your ethnicity is on your skin,
Yeah.
there's no place to hide. You have that all the time to deal with.
I've found that presentation, as masculine or straight acting, however you say it. I see it more as like I've s- as like a camouflage, or as like some type of survivor tactic. And then for whatever reason, there's something that's been sexualized about it too. So, it looks attractive to some people, not everybody, I would say. I don't have like good numbers to really back this up or data off the top of my head, but that's just my impression of what masculinity is. But I also see that what I think masculine is comes very naturally to other people. So,
Right.
so I think, we just have all these different experiences and just different ways of acting and relating to our environment. And then for one reason or another, some of these mannerisms or behaviors or accents or lisps or whatever you want to call it have been used to, subjugate like a specific population for whatever period of time or at whatever period of time, because even as we look back in history, we see that masculinity, some like conceptions of masculinity have changed. I mean, I'm off the top of my head, I'm just thinking of like maybe the French royalty with their kind of like high heels, like their men kind of had higher heels and the makeup and wigs
and beauty marks.
and all this stuff. So I think, just with like generally in power dynamics and the changes in power dynamics throughout history, just kind of make that marginalization of communities what it is at the moment. So I think that's how I feel about masculinity and whatever that presentation looks like. And there's one book. Have you guys, do you know who Guy Branum is?
I do not.
So he's a writer I think he's a comedy writer for a couple different shows. So pretty sure he worked for Chelsea Handler for a while.
Okay.
And wrote for her. And then who else did he write for? I can't remember, but he has a memoir. It's just a collection of essays. It's called My Life as a Goddess. I love that book. I think it's one of my favorite books of all time. He in one of the essays, he talks about his gay accent. and how he's felt so insecure about it for a lot of his life and how he feels about it now. And so he has a lot of hilarious ways to talk about it. And I mean, I found myself like I get goosebumps thinking about it because it really impacted me a lot. And so he has very hilarious ways of talking about a bunch of stuff. And one way that I thought was very beautiful, a beautiful way of describing his gay accent was, I think he called it like a lighthouse, something or something like that. So he says that he decided or he realized that his gay accent was a like a signal, like a lighthouse to other gay men or other people that felt marginalized to feel that they were not alone. So he says that that's drawn a lot of his close friends to him and other people to him because they felt safe, be, knowing that he was whatever he was, whatever it is they perceived. So anyway, the essay is a lot more beautiful than that, but I love that. And so you know, and even that, so I say that to say that even in these mannerisms that are not particularly masculine, I see like the evolutionary adaptability of those. So, for whatever reason, Guy Branum feels like he has this gay accent, and I would say that generally we can hear it in some people. Um, and he sees that as like a signal to others to feel that they're safe around him. And I think that's such a beautiful way to really look at some of these characteristics of LGBTQ folk. So that's cool. I love that book. It's so funny. I should probably listen to it again sometime.
What's it called? Confessions of a Goddess? Or?
My Life as a Goddess. I'll show you the title page because it's hilarious too. And I think we could probably share it on here. Large cover. Probably ask it to share. Share. Oh, share screen. The button's right there. All right. So that's the title page, which is hilarious. Forward by Minda Kaling. So good. I highly recommend it.
Put it on our discussions.
Yeah, that might be one that we could talk about sometime. Which reminds me, we should probably talk about our, let's see, our May piece sometime soon.
Are we having an April one?
So the April one, it will be the prom.
Gotcha.
And at this point, I'm still considering it to be a bilingual one, but we'll talk about this the next week or so. So I guess so. I'm thinking we could decide on something for May. I don't know. I mean, I'll just throw this out there. I'll go with whatever you guys we all like prefer as a group, but I've been considering we could also try maybe some type of like a art project at some point that we could do together and talk about. So June is essentially Pride Month, and then you might be familiar. You guys might be familiar with the AIDS quilts. Have you all heard of those? Okay, so I've only learned about those recently, and I'm thinking it could be a good idea to set up some type of like craft workshop as a queer culture meeting where we can maybe do like a mini representation of like a AIDS quilt or something. Or maybe we could do that like towards the end of the year, since December is World AIDS Day. October is coming out month, I think, too. So that's also an opportunity. So I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Or we could.
No, I like the idea. To me, To me, this group, we hope it grows, but is meant to talk about queer themes in any art. So it doesn't matter to me. It feels fairly subjective. I mean, we aren't talking music, we aren't talking stage shows, even though we did a lot today. But there's no reason we can't, as far as I'm concerned. It's about representation of LGBTQ community in the arts. So I love the idea.
It could be, that's an option. I don't know, did you guys have any thoughts about what you wanted to possibly discuss in May? Or what you wanted to do in May? Maybe a book or a movie or a
I would,
show?
personally, I'd love to do My Life as a Goddess. It seems, especially if it's essays, because that,
Okay,
until we build a huge following here, people will, essays are good to pick up and put down. So people can, if they're worried about reading through a whole book,
okay,
they can read several essays and have a good sense of the author without having finished the book necessarily.
it's a fun one. It's a fun book.
Yeah, and people like those. I mean, they're used to David Sedaris and other things. So I think,
Yeah.
you
I think this is a contemporary voice, I guess. It sounds very relatable, like a lot of the stories he tells too. So I don't know. What do you think, Jeffrey? Do you have any preference as to what we'd like to do? Because I'm thinking June we could do the art project in June instead, and in May we can discuss My Life as a Goddess or whatever book or film or TV show or news events, current events that you guys would prefer talking about in May.
I think an interesting topic right now is, well, first of all, I never saw, I think it's called I Am Halima. Was that the movie? I never saw
Robin
it.
Williams, yeah.
That's a movie I'd like to see if there's another movie night to be had.
Okay.
That's my nomination. But
Okay.
an interesting topic, I believe right now, would be Dr. Rachel Levine, who was nominated to be the Assistant Health Secretary in Biden's cabinet, and he's transgender.
Okay.
And that's the highest transgender
Oh wow.
Politician in America.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I think that's a very current LGBTQ issue worthy of exploring.
Oh, that would be cool. I would really like that. Would you be interested in leading the discussion if we chose that topic? Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I proposed My Life as a Goddess technically, but I'm gonna jump this boat. Michael, I'm sorry. I think I'd like to, and I also already listened to the audiobook My Life as a Goddess, which I highly recommend. So I think I'd like that. Maybe I should be a little more impartial, but yeah. What do you think? Are you okay with that?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. To me, it's not as much culture, but it certainly is. I don't know. It is culture. The media and the news is a portion of that story. So yeah.
I think it's a comment on the progress of LGBTQ politics.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that in itself is an important
Right.
reason to.
I like making this group as all embracing as possible. So I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's go with that then. Okay. Let me see what else. Is there anything else we wanted to discuss about the movie?
I don't think so. I've given all my thoughts and tried to pull out as much conversation as I could get. So.
All right. I really enjoyed that film. So thanks for suggesting it. Okay. So let me see. So share screen. Just a couple ending remarks if I can find them. Maybe they're here. Let's check it out. Okay. So let's see. So we picked our May suggestion, our May piece. So just for anyone watching this video, make sure to check out our resources that we have listed on our website at naplespride.org. You'll find a list of interesting and important local resources, some state ones, some national ones as well. Email us at info@naplespride.org if you have any questions or any requests for information. You can send those there. And that's really all we have for today. So I guess this next question goes for you guys here. Would you all indulge me in a little group picture this time as well?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So all right. So here we go. You guys ready? All right. Print screen. This is it. Our cameras. I should try to smize. I guess is the word. I think I look like I'm smizing.
I look squinty-eyed, but I always look squinty-eyed.
All right. Well, thanks for anyone who's watching. Let us know if you have any questions, and we hope you enjoyed this.